Hi everyone, welcome to Healing Connection. We are your supporting light for better mental health. This is Angela.
And this is Sean. Today we have with us Davin Charney, the people's lawyer, for an exclusive interview to share his words of wisdom. Davin Charney's mistreatment that took place before 2008 led him to law school. So he began his legal practice suing the police in civil courts and focusing on criminal cases alleging police wrongdoing. Lawsuits against police are specialized and significantly different than other personal injury cases. Davin developed significant expertise in the area while pursuing over 100 lawsuits and complaints against 15 forces in Ontario, as well as other public authorities, including the Chief Coroner's Office and Maplehurst Correction Complex. Davin continues to be an activist, and he participates in social justice groups. His role models are social justice lawyers, which include Joe Slovo and Nelson Mandela. Davin has been a major inspiration for me. So he's traversed adversity through a peaceful protest, him exercising his charter rights. He was arrested and placed in prison, in jail, in which case he continued to fight for his freedom, where he could have just accepted the police and their decision as an all-encompassing sign to give up. But he pursued action, beat his criminal charges, went to law school to become a lawyer, and he succeeded. So very, very influential, very resilient, and the story speaks of perseverance. I feel very inspired right now just speaking about it. Welcome, Davin Charney. Thanks for being here today.
Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So, Davin, would you mind telling us of one of your experiences and how you turned pain into purpose?
Sure. So, I grew up in a middle class household in Toronto. And I was born in South Africa, and my mother took me to anti-apartheid protests in Toronto. It was part of my political awakening as a teenager. And I went to university in Guelph and was involved in student activism. And one of the things I observed in doing activism is whenever we were trying to do something positive, the people that were there to try to stop us was the police, arresting people or trying to prevent us from, protesting in a certain place and such things. It shaped my consciousness about the police. And when I moved to Kitchener, I got involved with a youth group, and Sean was part of that. We ran a youth drop-in center in downtown Kitchener where we worked with street youth and some youth involved with gangs and homeless youth, and youth that were involved in the criminal justice system and the so-called child welfare system. We organized with the youth to run the center. It was not a typical center where, you have paid staff and you have this relationship of staff and client. We didn't have that. We just all won, and we ran the center democratically and as a collective. And we ran all kinds of programs, and we built a community, and we turned this street community into a family.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was sort of one of the most powerful things I think that we accomplished, was to create a sense of purpose and family amongst people that didn't have families, some, and didn't have maybe didn't feel a sense of purpose in their lives. We did all kinds of things to help people. For example, if people were on social assistance and they got cut off, we would go to the social assistance building and we would be disrupted until they were put back on. Or we advocated for people in the court system. We did the 10 cities to help homeless people. We helped to start a group called Food Not Bombs, where we fed people. And one of the things we did was a street patrol, where we would monitor the activities of the police in Kitchener. We would photograph and document things. And the police, as you can imagine, really did not take kindly to that, us observing them and documenting them. And they tried to infiltrate our group using undercover agents. They would attack people. They would come there and harass people. And I myself was subjected to numerous abuses at the hands of the police, including wrongful arrests and assaults. And, you know, I got beat up by the police, and I was arrested on a number of occasions. And on one occasion, it's really two occasions, I was arrested. I spent a week in jail at Maplehurst. And as a person, you know, with the background that I had at the time, you know, jail was obviously a new experience for me. You know, not a pleasant place. It was a difficult experience. I lost my job at the time. I was fired from my job. At the time I was working for the public health department for the region of Waterloo. And when it was in the newspaper that I had been arrested, they fired me essentially. And and I spent basically 2 weeks in jail. The Crown attorneys were very anxious to try to prosecute me and other people involved with our group. They made it very difficult for me to get released from custody. They prosecuted me to 2 trials. Where I was acquitted both times. And that was on the one hand, a difficult experience in my life, but on the other hand, in some ways, a very pivotal and growing part of my life. Facing adversity, being incarcerated, losing my job. I didn't have money. I ended up on social assistance myself. I was, eating at food banks and such for a brief period. And I decided at that time, geez, I could use a good lawyer. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to become that lawyer, the lawyer that I needed at the time. And so after that experience, I managed to get into law school. And since then, I've made a career of trying to help people that have faced the same experience that I faced, which is, you know, wrongful arrests and assaults, and I do a whole variety of cases against police. I do civil lawsuits and police complaints, and help people to navigate a very difficult legal system. And I help people that don't have the means or the power to take on these very well-funded and powerful institutions. And so, yeah, so that's my story of sort of turning pain into purpose and overcoming some adversity.
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you, Davin, for the incredible story you've shared with us. We would definitely need people's lawyer like you, Davin. Would you like to share with us any of the challenges you might experience as a people's lawyer?
As a lawyer now, I mean, there are still, there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of stress. I deal with difficult people, especially other lawyers sort of representing the other side, people often that that I don't respect, because I don't respect the work that they're doing. And many lawyers, unfortunately, I always say behind every great injustice is a lawyer. Now, today there are great lawyers, and there are great lawyers that fight for social justice. Sean, you mentioned two of my role models, Joe Slovo,
Oh, yes.
who is actually my grandmother's brother. And he was a well-known anti-apartheid figure, and Nelson Mandela, and the two of them worked together, and they're both inspirations for me. But the lawyers tend to, follow the money, and are mostly on the side of privilege and power. And when you are up against that, it can be difficult, because you don't have a lot of resources. My practice is one of always trying to overcome adversity, to help my clients to pursue their cases, to be brave, to be strong, and also to try to have the strength and to have the resources to pursue these kinds of cases against very powerful forces. But
I've still got that poster, the beware, because armed bands are roaming the highways and marching through your neighborhood. They may even try to enter your home. So watch for these gang identifiers, which was a little spoof one we had here. And those identifiers are the cars with the lights and the sirens and well-kept dress uniforms, and they have a demeanor which is surly and hostile, or even aggressively friendly. So
that was sort of a spoof poster that we made back in the day, and I guess we still have it up where you are there, that sort of says basically that, look out for these gang members, and then it has a picture of a police officer.
And it ties in.
What's that?
It ties in.
Yeah.
I mean, with the cop watches. So back then there wasn't any talks of police cameras. There wasn't any talks of more efficient ways to deal with complaints that people had against the police. So what we were doing, whether or not it was specifically the outcome, but we were pioneering police accountability. We were cross-referencing these instances with these officers and learning how they were policing, how they were conducting themselves, with that authority.
Yeah.
So now look at today, we've got police cameras, we've got a large social media, police sort of a watchdog that's like, usually it's the general public bringing it to the media from just cell phone footage. So we've come a long way, and we were there in the beginning when it was a lot harder.
Yeah. We, and I guess I tell people now, there's never been, not that it's easy, but there's never been a better time in the history of the world to be suing police, because so much has changed about, it's not that the police have changed. They haven't really changed that much. They're very reluctant to change, but the public the perceptions about the police has changed so much in the last, 20 years. And we played a small role, I think, in that. It's in fact kind of hard to imagine, what we were doing then, and thinking how much perceptions about police would be changing, in the years to come.
Right.
So we I'm not trying to overstate our impact, but we played a role. And,
well, you say play a role. I mean, yes, geographically, in our geographical area, we played more than a role. We had a deep impact on the outcome, and we had a deep impact with our presence, not being hostile, not allowing them to use that force or authority. We had a presence that said, we know our rights. All we want to do is exercise them. So as far as that Tri-City area, we made a very large impact, I would say. But as in that whole scene, yeah, we definitely made an impact for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we built a family, and there's still some family today, connections that have lasted many years.
Wow.
You've inspired me for the day. So you really have been like a pioneering part, taking that inspiration from such a place with those confines and parlaying it here in Canada, in Kitchener, to inspire all those youth. I just want to know, what are your top 3 words of wisdom? If you could think of some words of wisdom that you would share with others for better mental health.
For me, the one word is humility, or being humble. In the legal profession is so corrupted by ego, and not just the legal profession, but other, I think our relationships as well, can be corrupted by ego, stubbornness, and where we fail to see other people's points of views, can't compromise. And I think some of that perhaps is because of a lack of humility, or being humble. So I just think it's important for people to be humble and to appreciate that one person doesn't have all the answers. One person doesn't always know the right thing to do. Listening to others. So that's something that's guided me. Another word is bravery, and I don't mean in a foolish sense to be reckless, but I mean it in the sense to put yourself out there, to take some risks, to take on challenges, and not to always be not to always hold yourself back by fear of loss or failure, but just to take a chance. So that's another word. And the third word is to try, and it can be difficult, and the world is a challenging place, and even more so now, but to try to have a sense of optimism, because we can be very pessimistic and nihilistic, living lives, and this is fostered by our culture, which is kind of materialistic, but there can feel like there's no sense of purpose in our lives. And so to have some purpose, and to try to have a bit of optimism about that purpose and achieving things, and maybe having small goals as well as larger goals, that's all important. So to try to foster a sense of optimism, I think is important. So anyway, those are my 3 words: humility, bravery, and optimism.
Wow.
Yeah, great. They piece together so well. You've inspired me for the day. It's great. I've learned a lot more than I've known. So certain things that you've discussed here today, I had no idea. You've inspired me for the day. You're really exploring with humility, and you're taking a journey, and you're a stronger lawyer, a smarter lawyer, a stronger person, and a smarter person for it. I think you've summed up those 3 words, and they piece together quite well. And thank you. We definitely made an impact for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we built a family, and there's still some family today, connections that have lasted many years.
To inspire all those youth to to bring the community together. And you were right. I mean, it was like that. Everything was the people's. So we had a drop-in center, but we had pop, we had milk, and we had cereal, we had food, and whatever the item was, we would always put the phrase people before it. So if it was a loaf of bread, it was the people's bread. If it was orange juice, it was the people's orange juice.
Yeah, and the people's pop.
That's right.
Yeah,
who's going to get the people's pop?
Yeah, in these times with COVID, I'm like, oh my goodness, all these youth passing around a big 2-liter thing of pop, people's pop. I'm like,
my goodness. Yeah.
Wow, I love all the positive impacts you have made in our community. Thank you, Davin.
And thank you for having me here today. I appreciate the opportunity. And we'll talk again sometime soon.
Healing Connection HC is a registered charitable organization across Canada. Our goal is to build a resilient community together. We offer free community-based programs such as Healing Connection workshops. Most of our workshops are done by volunteers. Most of our fundings come from donations. If you feel benefited from any of our free resources, we would love to have your support by going to our website to donate. www.healingconnectionhc.com.
All the interview recordings will be posted on our social media and website. You will get notified when we have exclusive interviews with amazing influencers in our community. If you haven't followed us or subscribed yet, go ahead to do so by clicking on our website, which is healingconnectionhc.com. Thank you all for listening. Bye for now.
Bye for now.